and welcome back to my podcast, Esme's Country Life. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about my carriage driving lesson with Darth Vader, and also I'm going to be giving you an update on the horses because Duke and Casper, who've never really been that close, have recently become BFFs. But anyway, before we start, I just want to say a huge thank you to the sponsor of the podcast, Red Post. Red Post is an equestrian and country store based in the UK, but they also ship all over the world. And let me tell you about Red Post Stride. So Red Post Stride gives you free next day delivery in mainland UK on orders over £20. It also gives you Stride points. And it also gives you not just early access, it gives you first access to new products, sales, and special offers. And the first 30 days are free when you sign up. And then after that, it's only £2.99 a month. And that's less than most coffees at most places. And if you guys know, you know that my dad, he loves coffee. At a horse show, he can probably down at least 5 coffees. He's an expensive employee. Anyway, if you want to find out more information about Red Post Stride, then go and check it out at redpostequestrian.co.uk. Anyway, let's get into today's podcast episode, because you might be thinking, Esme, I've read the title and you're doing carriage driving with Darth Vader. Where did this come about? How did this happen? So, starting off, I was actually challenged. So I have a little series on my YouTube channel called Challenge Esme, where I've tried lots of different equestrian disciplines over the years. Some of my favourite ones, I say recently or over the years, some of my favourite ones include horseback archery, jousting, side saddle, endurance riding, working equitation. Like, I've done so many different ones over the years, but one thing that I've not done yet on my channel is carriage driving. Now, I was actually challenged by the Royal Windsor Horse Show, so we were there with the team, and they very kindly invited me to the stables called the Devil's Horsemen, which is very cool. So I'll give you a little debrief about them and the stuff that they do, because it is very, very cool. So their yard, number one, is huge. They have like over 100 horses there, because if there's a film basically filmed in the UK, it's most likely that it's their horses that have been on it. So I'm trying to name off some of the top like films and TV shows that they've done recently that is very cool. So one of the biggest things that, if you're British, you will know what I mean when I say, you know, the Lloyd's Bank advert that has all of the black beautiful horses on the beach running along? That's their horses, and they were actually the horses that I did the carriage driving with, which was very cool. It was like, oh my gosh, I've met a celebrity. They also did all the carriages and everything for Peaky Blinders. They also have done things such as Enola Holmes, Wonder Woman, Downton Abbey. Like, there are so many other really cool ones that they've done as well. Like, which one were you saying, Dad? Game of Thrones. Oh yeah, sorry. Game of Thrones. That was one thing that was actually quite cool. So when we first arrived, it actually felt like we'd kind of gone onto a film set, because the stables kind of looked almost like, you know, like a little western town. Like, that's kind of how it felt like. So when we first arrived, there was a guy there. I was like, oh, you here for your riding lesson? I was like, oh no, I'm here with the Royal Windsor Horse Show. We're doing some filming for carriage driving. I was like, oh, okay, got some other people coming today. Anyway, found out later on, the people that were coming for their riding lesson were like A-lister Hollywood actors that were having a riding lesson. I can't tell you what they were filming or who these people were, for, you know, gotta keep the secrets. But it was very cool, because they obviously thought I was an A-lister Hollywood actor. What can I say? Me arriving, obviously not. But anyway, so that was very cool. Didn't really see any of them because they were like in a different part of the yard, because it's a big yard, it's a big place. So that was cool. And yeah, I was asking Dan, who is Darth Vader. So in the kind of more recent Star Wars films, he was the guy in the Darth Vader suit. That kind of, he's very tall. He's like 6'5", I want to say 6'5". He's something around then, 6 foot something. He's huge. Anyway, so it was very cool that he's like the main guy of the yard, and he was teaching me carriage driving. So apart from, you know, doing all the cool film stuff, he is also a professional carriage driver. So at the Royal Windsor Horse Show, he is going to be there competing. So if you want to go and see the driving there is incredible. You have to go on the marathon day. Now, if you're like, Esme, what do you mean driving marathon? I'm confused if you don't know anything about driving. Now, driving, a little bit like eventing, has 3 different kind of disciplines. So they have the dressage. They have cones, which I'm going to say is like their version of show jumping, because obviously in like a horse and cart carriage kind of thing, you can't really go over show jumps. I was saying they should get little kind of skateboard ramps and go up and over those, but I don't know how health and safety that would be. So anyway, they have these 2 cones that you have to kind of drive in between. Now, when I tell you, these cones are so close together, because we were setting them out and I thought, oh, there's, the carriage that I was driving had not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 horses. And I was like, okay, so this is like 2 horses wide, a carriage wide. I'm going to have to, put these quite wide out. No. These were basically like like when you do a skinny jump in show jumping or cross country or whatever, it was like that kind of width. It was shorter than a normal kind of show jumping pole. That's how tight it was. And then what they do is they put tennis balls on top of the cones. So if you accidentally knock one of the cones or touch it, or there was one stage where I drove over the cone, but it's okay. These cones are plastic, they're rubber, they're used to being knocked over, tripped over, like that sort of safety first anyway. So it wasn't the end of the world that I just bashed through these cones at one stage. But yeah, they are very tight together. So when I saw it, I was like, you're joking. You're actually joking that I've got to fit through there. I am somebody that, I find parallel parking in my car stressful enough, let alone going along in this horse and carriage with all these horses. So anyway, let's rewind. Then the third one, I haven't got to that yet. The third one is called the marathon, which I would say is like the driving version of cross country. Again, obviously, they don't go over fences, but they do have to do all these little tight turns, and it's also long distance as well. So it's around the beautiful showgrounds of the Royal Windsor Horse Show at Windsor Castle. So that's just spectacular as it is, just being there, wandering around like the King's Garden, basically. But they also go through water. Some of them, they have like a big bridge that they go over. There's lots of different cool stuff. So would definitely recommend going and watching that, because they go fast. Oh my gosh, I was telling my dad, because I was looking back at, we filmed some stuff to put on stories on my phone. I was looking back at the footage and I was like, it felt a lot faster than it looks on there. But we actually filmed with some helmet cams. Oh my goodness, my dad, when he got home, first thing he did, because he loves to look back at footage, first thing he did, got home, it was late in the evening as well, I went straight to bed. He was like, okay, we need to, obviously, the first thing that we always do when we finish filming is make sure that all the footage is downloaded, make sure it's saved, make sure we haven't lost anything, that's the first thing that you need to do. But he was looking through all the footage and just oh, Esme, we've got the money shot. We've got some cool shots here. Because when being up on the helmet cam, you could see exactly what I was doing, because I had to be at the back doing all the leaning and that kind of thing. And you are very close to the ground and you are going very fast. It feels so much faster when you're on top. So anyway, little rewind to the beginning of the day. Apart from getting, mistaken for an A-lister celebrity, we arrived, said hello to the team, made a little game plan, met the horses, which were the big Lloyd Bank black beautiful horses, and they were gorgeous. There was this one stallion that I got ready, and he was so sweet. He was getting a little bit older. He looked like he had eyebrows, because he had little white hairs just above his eyes. It looked like he had little eyebrows. He was so sweet. And then I was taken into the tack room. Now, they have these huge tack rooms. When I tell you, this tack room went on and on and on. It was like a maze. You could get lost in there. And because obviously they film all of these different films and TV shows from many different periods, many different dramas, that kind of thing. So they have Western tack. They have, carriage driving tack from the Edwardian times, the Victorian times, World War II times, all the different kind of periods. And it's oh my gosh, this is wild. Anyway, so I was there, and he just Dan was like, okay, here's the stuff, plonked it on me. And I was like, is this all for one horse? It was luckily for 2 horses, because I was like, I'm carrying a lot of stuff. And he was like, ask questions. We only make one trip. And I was like, I'm glad we we're both on the same page with that. So anyway, I was walking along with all this like carriage driving equipment, which is, you know, a bit heavier than my light little, you know, show jumping saddle. Anyway, so I was walking along, or I was more waddling along actually with all this stuff on me. And then I got to the horse and I was like, wait a second, where do I put all of this? Luckily, I managed to hang some of it on the stable door, and they did have like proper hooks and stuff. So I hung it on there. But at first I didn't see the hooks, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just stuck with all this stuff on me. How am I going to, you know, tack up this horse? And at first he was like, okay, off you go. Good, you know, you're an equestrian, you know how to do this. I was like, I've never done driving in my life. That is one thing, when you try a new equestrian discipline that you're not used to, you honestly, it's like going back to being a beginner again, because I don't know, it's such a weird feeling, because give me any horse in English show jumping or dressage tack, easy, tack it up, boom. Give me a horse in like Western tack or carriage driving tack, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel so ignorant. I'm like, what does this do? Where does this strap go? And it's so funny because obviously like a normal show jumping bridle, like that I've got down. So it makes me think, oh my gosh, this is what, you know, beginner people feel like when they see all these different buckles and straps. And like, where does this go? What do I do with this? So anyway, I was given a little bit of help, because obviously we wanted to make sure that I did everything up properly on how to put all of the equipment on. If you told me tomorrow to go and get some carriage driving horses ready, I probably still would need help. And I helped them get 4 different horses ready. So that there is a lot of different buckles. Anyway, got the horses ready. We put them into the kind of dressage tack first, which I'd say like the dressage tack looks more fancy, it looks more traditional, it looks more kind of like a Victorian horse and carriage kind of vibes, when the marathon and I'll keep wanting to call it show jumping, the cones, I think that's what it's called, the cones. Again, I've only done 1 day of driving, so if any of you guys are do driving, I apologise if I say anything wrong or use the wrong terminology. Anyway, so tacked them up, got them ready, and we did the cones first, because he was like, okay, that seems quite fun, that's one that I could do. So he did a little demonstration going quite fast. I was like, okay, wow, I'm gonna try and do this now. So then I got given the reins from Dan, and I was like, okay, oh wait, there was one more important part that I didn't tell you. So my dad, as you guys know, he is my full-time cameraman, helps me out all the time. There have been many a close calls on filming days and shoot days where he's been either injured or closely injured. Today, or that day, was one of those days. So often, you know, with a camera, you feel quite invincible. There is actually one of my favourite stories, which I did tell on that day after this happened, because it was so funny. My dad was filming some cross-country horses. My dad got quite close to the jump. Now this horse, as it jumped, it kind of like kicked out. Honestly, millimeters this horse's hoof was away from the camera. But I think when you're like looking behind a camera, you have like a slightly different depth perception. And there have been also other times where I've been doing a cross-country course or a show jumping course, my dad's been standing in front of, or on, there was one time he was standing on the cross-country jump. I was like, Dad, I'm coming towards this jump, get out the way. He literally just like run out the way. Or like I'm filming, I'm like, I'm coming, or I'm doing like a dressage test or something. He's in the arena filming while we're practicing. I'm like, I'm coming down the diagonal, you're in the way, get out the way. He thinks that I purposely aim for him. I just think he gets in my way. Anyway, this day was one of those days, so we all got on the carriage. My dad was like, oh, can I hop on to like film some stuff as we drive off? I was like, yeah, sure. As my dad was getting on, Dan didn't realise, and now this is quite a high up carriage, there were a lot of people also on the back, so he was trying to like hold on with one hand, other hand had the camera. Anyway, he was like half on, he was climbing up, and then suddenly we were off. We were going, my dad wasn't quite on yet. He started falling backwards, and then luckily the team on the back grabbed onto him, on the way home in the car journey, my dad was like, I think I've sprained my wrist. Like, he was doing all these, like, flexing his wrist about, being like, oh yeah, it hurts when I do that. I'm like, I don't think you should be doing that if it hurts. Anyway. And then I also got a message from one of the ladies, Alex, who was also there helping us on the film day. And she was like, oh yeah, I think my shoulder's playing up a bit after saving your dad's life. And I was like, oh my gosh, everyone's like hurt themselves from saving my dad. Anyway, he was all good. But it was kind of, I didn't even realise what happened. I was just sitting at the front. I also had a little dog next to me as well, which was so cute. The little dog was called Sprout. So me and Sprout were just vibing at the front with Dan. We were like chatting away. And then we just hear the scream, like, what is going on back there? What's all this commotion? Anyway, it was all good. Everyone was fine. Don't worry, health and safety. I've got good insurance. Anyway, moving on. So it was then my time to drive. So I was handed over the reins. Now, when I tell you these reins, like, I'm used to one horse. I had 4 horsepower here. So the reins are a little bit heavier. Now, the thing I struggled with the most, because obviously I'm used to driving a car. The thing is with a car is not long. Maybe this is telling me that I need to like learn how to drive a trailer, but that does scare me a little bit. Anyway, the thing is, you have 2 horses in front, and then you have the carriage as well. So as soon as you start turning at the front, you've got to think about where the back is, and there's just so much to think about. So often I'll be like, okay, first horses are through, that's all good, and then I'll be like, oh no, the second horses, they're not where they should be, and it's just, there is so much to think about. I have such appreciation for people who do carriage driving, because my goodness, it is difficult. It is one of those things like, oh yeah, that looks easy peasy. When you get it, no, it's like the best way I can describe it is when things go wrong, it's like an unraveling piece of string or an unraveling toilet paper, where it just unravels even more, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to gather up the reins, trying to gather up my horses, I'm trying to hold my horses, and like, it's just, the steering is difficult, the speed, there is just a lot going on, like your brain is working overtime, especially as it's so tight as well, doing all the turns. I did manage to do one course without bashing the cones completely down. So I'll take that. I'll take that for today, for my first time as well. You know, you got to start somewhere when trying something new. And you're not going to be perfect when you try something new either. So anyway, that was interesting. Then after that, we did the marathon, the sort of cross country. Now for that one, I didn't hold the reins. They were like, okay, Esme, you did all right, you did okay, mediocre with the codes for the marathon. How about you go on the back? And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I was like, I'll go on the back. Don't have to do the steering. Much less stressful. Oh my gosh. I felt like I was holding on for my dear life on the back, because when I tell you, they go fast. They go so fast, and with this, they have, the best way I can describe it is, if you could think of lots of different kind of square boxes you had to kind of go round, and there were lots of very tight turns. And when you're at the back as well, you can't really see too much, because you don't know which way the horse is going to go next. If they're quickly going to turn left, quickly going to turn right. And also, so when you're going right, you have to kind of lean all the way over to the right, because basically my job, yes, if you're going right, you have to lean to the right. That is correct. My dad was looking at me saying, no, you're just saying it wrong. I know that I get my lefts and rights mixed up sometimes, but I did remember that it was quite easy to remember that if you're going right, you had to lean right, and if you're going left, you had to lean left. Because if not, the carriage would tip over. So I was basically having to be the anchor and be the weight at the bottom. So number one, I was like clinging on, but also I was having to like basically lean out the side as well. So anyway, that was a lot. It was so much fun. Oh my gosh, what an adrenaline rush, because you're zooming super fast, tight turns. We were drifting. I felt like, I don't know what I felt like, but I felt like I was in like a race car, because I was like drifting around the corners. Oh my gosh, so much fun. Would love to definitely try that again, because yeah, the drifting, it was just so good. It was so good. You'll have to watch the full video when it's out. I am going to try and get it out ASAP. I just have a lot of voiceover and chatting to do. Today my jobs for today is like do the podcast, try and edit the video. My voice is going to be done by the end of the day because I'm going out with the girls this evening as well, because I'm recording this on a Friday, so we're going out for dinner, so I'm going to have a big catch up with them. So my voice by the end of today, I'm going to be like chatted out. Anyway, so that was so much fun. Just want to say another huge thank you to everybody on that day who made the day possible. The Royal Windsor Horse Show, the team at the Devil's Horsemen, Dan, his family, who was so lovely as well. And also, if you want to come and see me at the Royal Windsor Horse Show, come along. I'm there on the Saturday and the Sunday for meet and greets. And I also have a little discount code for you guys, which they haven't told me to do on the podcast, but I'm going to tell you because I want to give you guys a discount. So the code, I'm going to try and say it the best I can, is ESME RWHS 25, and it's for 20% off tickets. So go and check it out at the Royal Windsor Horse Show. It's a great horse show, great family event. They've also got lots of other stuff there as well. They have showing, they have top show jumping, they have the puissance, they have the Dax Pony Club Mounted Games, which is what I did last year. I did Pony Club Games with them as my challenge ESME, which was also a lot of fun. I always love trying new things. Anyway, so that was my time driving. I would love to have another go. Do you know what? If obviously, like, this is one of those things that it's like, oh, that could be fun, but probably won't happen. If Duke is strong enough, obviously we need to make sure that he'd be strong enough to do it. But if he's strong enough, I think he would love that. He does like little drifts and everything round in the paddock anyway. So anyway, talking about Duke, I need to give you an update on Duke and Casper. So Duke is my rescue pony from World Horse Welfare. He is turning 5 this year, which is wild. He has grown up so quickly. He was born in 2020, born in like May, June 2020. We're not exactly sure what day he was born, but he was taken into World Horse Welfare only a few days old. But anyway, so he has been on his own in his paddock for the last couple of months, where he's very sadly lost his friend Mickey. And I thought, it's got to the stage now, we didn't want to change up routine too quickly after, they've lost their friend, because horses, they like their routine, they like everything to be the same. And I thought the other day, how about I put Casper and Duke in together, which some people might think is a bit rogue, because out of all the horses, they're not really the most close. Like, Casper is quite territorial of his stable, and he does this with everyone. He does this, actually he doesn't do it with humans, because when he sees humans, he's like, hello, come over and give me food. But with other horses, if they get too close to his stable, he will pin his ears back. And my mum says that if he could hiss, he would hiss at other horses. But when he's in a paddock with other horses, loves them. He's a little bit more of an introvert, Casper, bless him. Like, when we used to have all the horses together in the paddock running free, but because of medical issues and because of feeding issues, that we do have them in separate paddocks, just because they basically, if they're together, then one horse will get too fat because it's eating the other horse's food, that kind of thing. Anyway, we're at the scenario where I'm like, Casper and Duke, they both like to eat a lot of food. They both need to be on a bit of a diet. They would be perfect paddock buddies. So I thought, you know what? Let's put them in together. Because Casper has actually been back in the day when it was Mickey and Duke's paddock. He's been in there before, because he actually escaped one day, and we came home and he was just there chilling with them, eating their haylage. So that was quite funny. So I knew that it wasn't going to be like super mega squealing, bucking, kicking each other, oh my gosh, please don't cost me another vet bill kind of situation. So I thought, okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take Casper for a hack, take him for a big blast up on the hills, take him for a gallop, get him nice and tired. So I did that, and he was actually such a good boy. One thing that I was a little bit scared of, though, there was like, I don't even know what to call them, there was a gaggle of, I was going to say middle-aged men, there were a gaggle of retired men, and do you know what they were doing up on the hills? They were flying remote control aeroplanes, and I thought when I first saw this, oh my gosh, Casper is going to lose his mind, he's going to freak out, but I have never been so grateful for the weather, because there was no wind. So no aeroplanes were flown, they were just sitting there chilling in the sunshine, and I was so happy that they weren't flying that, because I thought, oh, Casper's not going to be sure of that. There were also a lot of like paragliders or like hang gliders, and they weren't flying either because there was no wind. So I was there like, woo, no wind. It was so sunny, so beautiful. The weather recently, I know this is such a British thing to say, like talk about the weather, but what has happened with the weather in the last week? Like this week, we've had hail, we've had sunshine. I've been out in just a t-shirt. We've had the coldest bitter wind. We've had all the seasons in 1 week. So anyway, this is one of those days where there was no wind, beautiful sunshine. We finessed the weather. We were like, yes, we've managed to take Casper out when the weather was lovely, brilliant, like seize the best part of the day. That's what makes me happy in life. If I get to seize the best part of the day or the best part of the weather, life feels good. Anyway, so went out for a hack, lovely jubbly, no scary aeroplanes, got back home, thought, you know what, Casper, he's been a little bit sad since, losing Mickey, so I thought he needs a new friend. So I'm going to put him in with Duke, and I was a little bit nervous, but first thing they did was they both sniffed each other. Now, normally when horses sniff each other when they're kind of first introduced into a paddock, often there's a bit of, actually, I think it was just Joey. Joey is the drama queen. Joey is a squealer. He will squeal when there's another horse. There was no squealing. There was no biting. There was no kicking out. There was no setting boundaries. Duke, at one stage, at World Horse Welfare, when we rehomed Duke, they did say, you can put Duke in with anyone. Put him in with the bad boys. He loves it. Apparently, that is an official quote. They said, Duke loves the bad boys. Anyway, so put Duke with Casper. Duke, yeah, there was one point where I was like holding my breath a little bit because Duke, he has no kind of realization of what personal space is. So Duke went right up to Casper's bum, sniffed his bum. I mean, Casper was more occupied with being in a new paddock, looking at Duke's grass. Not that Duke actually has much grass in his paddock, but Casper was just having a little sniff around at everything, having a little explore, looking around. And Duke, do you know what he was exploring? Casper's bum. He was sniffing it, sniffing under his tail. I was like, Duke, you are on thin ice there, mate. One wrong move, those kicking legs of Casper are going to be in your face. Did Casper kick? No. Casper was as good as gold. They had a little run up and down, which was so cute. Duke did some little bucks, some little caprioles. I think that's what it's called, when a horse like basically jumps up on all four legs and then kicks out at the back. I don't know where Duke has learned that from, but anyway, maybe Joey. I don't know. We'll see. But they got on so well, and it made me so happy. And then after that, they went up to little Duke's haylage net and they started eating it together. And I thought Casper maybe would be a bit territorial, be like, no, you cannot eat my net. But the two of them got along so well, and that made me so happy because I think, since losing Mickey, he's just been a little bit sad. He's been a little bit, lonely. I guess Mickey was like his BFF, and he's never been as close with the other horses. So I think it's going to be really good having those two together. Maybe we'll see how it goes with them being in a paddock, but I don't know. I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be good for Casper as well, because now he is getting a little bit older. He's 19. I think Duke's going to keep him young, keep that young spirit in him. So I don't know. It's made me very, very happy seeing those two get along. I feel like a proud mother when their children get along and they're playing nicely. But anyway, on that note, I'm going to finish off today's podcast episode there. I really hope you enjoyed hearing about my driving adventures and also about a little update on Casper and Duke, because I know you guys always like hearing about my horses as well and how they're doing. But on that note, I'm going to say thank you for listening. Thank you to the Royal Windsor Horse Show for inviting me to do driving. Go and check them out. Come to the show. And also, thank you to Red Post for sponsoring the podcast. Go and check out Red Post Ride. Go and check it out. redpostequestrian.co.uk. And I will see you all next time. Bye!